I had a portfolio of kind of like 10 fake projects. So it was just like 10 random websites. So I would just go on Twitter and I would just like spam my website on like every single thread of a founder. And then one day I just like woke up and I actually got a reply from Noah, who had like 1 million followers or something. And that one tweet actually got me 3 clients and about like $40,000 revenue. So all through COVID, I just learned how to make websites. I hacked on like a few projects. And by the end of COVID, or by the end of my time in India, because I moved to Canada around 2021, I had a portfolio of kind of like 10 fake projects. So it was just like 10 random websites, and I wrote like full-length case studies pretending like I was like this really big freelancer or whatever. But I had like no money, no real experience, but just like 10 projects that I'd worked on. And once that website was live and I moved to Canada at the same time, so it was just kind of, it was kind of like the next step was to promote this website and try to get a client. So I would just go on Twitter and I would just like spam my website on like every single thread of a founder. I was like, yo, I want to work with you. This is my portfolio, etc. And I would just do that for...
So you were a reply guy?
I was a reply guy, yes. I would tweet like 20 times a day for no reason because I didn't really know how else to get people to look at my website. And
that's hilarious.
Yeah. And I think I would just post like random shit. It wasn't even valuable. It was just like engagement bait. And I would get like 2 likes, like 1 follower.
Nice. Great job with that engagement bait.
Yes, that's how I started. And then one day I just like woke up and I actually got a reply from Noah, who had like 1 million followers or something. And he replied to one of my engagement baits. I think my tweet was something like, I don't even know, it was something so stupid. I just tagged Noah in my tweet and then he ended up replying with like his name. And that got like 1 million impressions and I just went like viral. Like I had like 1,000 likes or whatever. And from that single tweet, I got like maybe 3 or 4 inquiries. And that's kind of how it really started.
And one of those inquiries was Vayner?
Yeah. One of them was this guy who worked at Waiter Commerce, and they had like special projects, like a new initiative, and they wanted to work with a designer. So they just hit me up through that one viral tweet. And since I was tweeting before that as well, but none of that was really getting engagement, when I did get viral, like a lot of people saw my other stuff as well. Like when I was posting my design work or like, just something about like a website that I did maybe, that ended up getting like a lot of like interest from real customers as well.
There's this idea of like creating a binge bank. I saw it on a podcast. I forget which one. It was a couple of years ago. But basically there's this idea that if you're making content online and you're trying to like convert, whether it's for subscribers or leads or customers, whatever it is, the idea is to like, even though you're not getting users, when you post content, you're creating like a binge bank so that when someone finds like that one piece of content that like they resonate with, or that one piece of content that pops up in their algorithm, they can go back to your profile and they'll basically see what is a landing page of all of the other videos or posts that you've put out, which is what, they base their decision to follow you off of. And so I remember I'd worked on like a handful of agencies in the last 10 years. Saying 10 years is crazy, but I've worked on like a handful of agencies. The first one was a video editing agency that I started when I was 11. I didn't call it an agency. I would just reach out to YouTubers that had 20 to 50,000 subscribers and say that I would edit their videos for free until eventually I got them to pay me. And I realized from doing that like spec work, like this fake work that like you do for free is like the best way to get anyone to work with you, because they're paying for an output. So if you can just show them 10 or 20 other outputs, whether or not you got paid for those outputs, that doesn't matter to them. They just want to see what you're capable of. And it sounds like you kind of skipped the years of, outreach or kind of like fumbling that a lot of people do when they're starting their first thing by just doing that spec work.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually perfectly put together. Yeah. And that's why it was so easy to get that Vayner client, because when they saw my work, it wasn't just like a blank portfolio, and I didn't approach them as like an upcoming designer. I already had a portfolio of like 10 pretty polished design works, and it was all like all the way from like the design idea to execution. And I even like for 1 or 2 projects, I actually bought a fake domain that made it like seem like a real website. So I bought a domain, I bought a site plan, I made it like a full like real project. So when they looked at it, it was like, okay, this guy's actually worked with this it wasn't like a .webflow.io link. So that also helped.
That's dope.
Yeah.
This YouTube thumbnail and title is about to be how to scam your way to X $100,000 in revenue as a designer.
Yeah, that's how it's going to go. Yeah.
So, okay, you got your first client now, which is like, let's say a lot of people are able to kind of luck into their first client for whatever agency they're working on. How did you get the second one?
The second one was also from the same method, well, the same tweet actually. So that one tweet actually got me 3 clients and about like $40,000 revenue. So that was like pretty good as like my first like 2 months as a freelancer. So it was just like a lot of nothing, and then all of a sudden I got these 3 or 4 projects that I had to work with. From there, my next client was just a referral from the same people, and I kept just like sharing my stuff because I knew that this was a format that worked. So whatever work I would do, I would just like post it on Twitter or just share a link.
How were you pricing your stuff initially? I feel like a lot of people who get outreach, like their first time getting clients, they're like, yeah, I'll do it for like $800.
Okay, and so on my website, it said like $10,000 because I just thought $10,000 was like an insane amount of money at that time. So that was like my only reason. It just said my minimum price starts from 10K, which now that I think about it, is pretty high from like for somebody who's just starting off. I think I based it off like YouTube videos I watched and like other agencies I saw, because I really tried to mimic their portfolios, and I saw like their work, and then I saw like they would have like a minimum level of engagement on their website, so I just like copied that. I didn't really put too much thought on it.
And it never turned anyone, like the fact that you were 15 charging $10,000 never turned anyone away.
I never mentioned my age. Why would I like?
How?
I would just.
How they can't tell it? They get on the phone with you and they see like a 15-year-old staring back at them.
No one ever questioned that. No one ever asked me. I would just talk, and I would just like, I was so passionate about design. Like all we would talk about is design.